Hi everybody, and welcome to On the Other Hand. I have a special guest tonight. I'm going to say Attorney Paul Doyle, but that's really not his full name. I'm going to say his full name is Attorney Paul Doyle, former state senator. Now, that's a little more impressive, isn't it? Paul and I have been friends for years. I have to tell you that when I was elected for selectman in Cromwell, Paul was one of the first people, parties aside, that came through my door and said to me, "Murdy, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know." Now, that is a person that puts politics away and says, whatever I can do for you, I'm going to do for you and your community. So I was so impressed with him. Then, okay, I'm going to read stuff about you, so take a nap, okay? Okay, Paul attended Colby College and then UConn, okay? And that's where he received his Juris Doctorate. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Oh, terrific. Okay. He also served in the Connecticut House of Representatives for 6 terms, beginning in 1994?
Correct.
Oh, I'm really out of roll here, aren't I? Yeah?
Yes.
And then as a Connecticut state senator from 2007 through 2018, when he made the decision to run for Attorney General. And in the primary, am I correct?
Correct.
It was a primary.
Yeah.
So he didn't get a chance to get to all of us across the state, but that's all right. We still got him anyway, involved and part of our communities. So now,
Murdy, I did serve 3 years on Wethersfield Town Council too.
well, I didn't
You
find
didn't have
that.
so I did start
anywhere.
locally.
Oh,
I started
no.
at local level.
Oh, you're such a show off. I
Yeah.
told you to take a nap. Now, not only that, okay, so we got to put the Wethersfield Town Council in here too, you know that. When was that?
Before that, so I started that in 91 to 94.
91 to 94. So you've done the Wethersfield, and then you've done the State
House,
and then
and
you've
then
done the
State
State Senate.
Yep.
How do you have time to breathe?
Now I do. I have time to breathe now.
Okay. All right. Now, this is what tickles me. In the midst, okay, of all this public service, which he just told me, corrected me on some of it, you became a crime stopper. I love that. My own hero here, right? Stopping a burglary. So
Bank robbery.
a bank robbery. That's even better. Go talk about a bank robbery.
Well, I was at the Webster Bank in Rocky Hill. I was sitting in the manager's office, doing some business, and the manager went out. So I heard a scream. Then I got up to see what was going on, and then the guy ran by, and the woman said, "He just robbed me." So then I ran to the door, and I chased him down, and across Route 3 in Rocky Hill, and behind the old Starbucks, and ultimately got the money. He threw all the money up in the air, and so he ended up in prison. It was his second bank robbery, so he spent time in prison.
And you chased him.
I chased him. Yep.
Oh.
We got the money for it was actually for a Muslim temple on the Berlin Turnpike. So it was the receipts of the temple, and they would have not got the money back because the bank had not taken possession yet of the money.
Oh,
it was on the
so-
counter, and he reached over and grabbed it.
And grabbed it off the counter.
Yes.
Oh, and they would have lost all that money.
They lost it. Yep.
Oh, wow. Well, I was so impressed. It didn't tell me all that stuff, And then this year, you're awarded the prestigious Middlesex Chamber of Commerce Governor William O'Neill's Public Service Award. Am I right?
Yes, that was actually, now that's, to me, it's a great award from the Middlesex Chamber, but it's of particular significance to me because my first job out of college, I worked at the Democratic headquarters, and I worked in Governor O'Neill's campaign, and I worked this is just out of college, so as a kid. Then I worked in his office, as a kid learning.
Yeah.
So I knew Governor O'Neill, just watched him. He was just a nice guy. I admired him because he was humble and down to earth. So to get an award from Middlesex Chamber in his name was wonderful. And I kept in touch with his wife, Governor Nikki O'Neill. She's still alive, and she helped me on my campaign for Attorney General. So that was it's a prestigious award that has special significance to me because I knew Bill O'Neill well.
And you worked. Oh, I think see that those are the little things that you never show up, I mean, you go
Right.
back and you read, you go in and you do Paul Doyle, and then you read all this stuff. But that's kind of the
That's cool. No, that
interesting
was
stuff
beautiful.
makes it personal.
Really special to me.
Yeah, so that was great that you got that award
Yes,
then. Yeah,
very great day.
Okay, all right. Now, let's see what else do we have here. Oh yes, this is my thing. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
This is mine. Okay, all right. And my personal favorite about you. You were a moderate politician. Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Unafraid to vote your conscience
Yep.
rather than blindly follow party lines. Am I correct?
Correct.
Which I'm sure caused you a bit of grief.
It did at times.
I bet
absolutely.
it did. But also the admiration of us who agreed with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, see, it's a win-lose situation there, right?
Yeah. Well, I think my constituents liked my decisions.
Oh, yeah,
But people
absolutely.
under the Golden Dome didn't appreciate it at times.
Of
'cause
course
they
not.
want
You're
strict-
supposed to, you're supposed to
push the button they want.
Yeah, walk in lockstep with them,
Right.
whether you agree or not. See, but you're our kind of politician. That's for sure. Now I need to ask you: are you a gambling man?
Not really, no. Follow sports, but I don't gamble.
Too bad. Okay. Okay. I put here on this little piece of paper, these little pieces of paper.
Okay.
Okay. I'm such a techie. You notice that? I can't even get the things apart. Okay. We're going to pretend these are cards.
Okay.
Okay, those are cards. All right.
Yep.
Okay, so I had so many things going around in my head, and I'm saying to myself, okay, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about tolls. We're going to talk about the budget. We're going to talk about,
Yeah.
I'm an old broad. I got to amuse
There's a
myself.
lot going on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got to amuse myself, right? So I put down on those little cards on the bottom, I put down some of the subjects,
Okay.
because that way I said, I'll let you choose a card, and then you can tell me.
But it is gambling. I don't know what they are. I just have to grab one.
And what we'll do is you'll choose a card,
Yeah.
and then once you choose a card, it's like the United Nations. If I don't like that one, I'll veto it, and we'll go on to the next one, right?
Okay.
But whatever comes up, we'll try and talk a little bit about,
Sure.
so that the people in the audience will know inside information, kind of like
Sure.
you've been there, walked those, steps, so you know a lot more that's going on in Hartford, and I'm sure you've got some opinions on some of the things that are going on. I have, and I'm a lay person.
Everyone does. Yeah.
Everybody does. So,
Yeah.
okay, so pick a card.
Okay. I picked the one right in the middle.
That figures, typical tolls.
Oh, boy.
You should have expected this, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm not vetoing it either,
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, what do you think about the tolls?
Well, tolls has been around for a long time. It was around, I've been out of legislature for a year, so the prior few years it's been percolating, and around this year it was made a top priority of Governor Lamont. But I think they this year there was a little stumbling about, and they should have focused more on it and done a better job, I think, bringing it out if you wanted to get it passed. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, I would think.
Okay.
They're still talking about it. The session finished maybe several weeks ago, and they're talking about potentially, the governor still wants to try to get it done in the fall, but from what I'm hearing, it's going to be difficult. You know what I mean? And the way to really to be honest, get the tolls done, if you really were an advocate for them, you would try to tie it to the budget, like right around the budget vote. If you have a freestanding vote in September or October, there's going to be a lot more pressure from the people on the legislators, especially legislators on the borders. They're the ones that get a lot of the pressure.
Right.
But even legislators around here, it's a very difficult call. And I would, if I was a betting man, I would say it's not going to happen this year.
I agree with you. I really, really agree with you. First of all, when I went out and did a little bit of, background on the tolls, okay, and I looked at where they want to put them, and it's so, it's the big stuff. It's the 84s, the 91s, the 95, even Route 15, okay? Those are primary routes of people going to work, okay? And then they started saying, well, we're only going to do trucks, okay?
Right.
Well, 15 get a lot of trucks?
It's prohibited in 15.
Exactly. So you're going to tell trucks, come down 15 because that way you skip 91, 95, and 84, and so take a few side roads and go down
Right.
15. So then for the average commuter, okay, he's now battling trucks on a small road because 15 is not a wide road. So it doesn't look to me like they really
Yeah.
thought a lot of this through.
Yeah, and the first plan, you're right, it was so broad. They had, I don't know if they had 80 or 100 locations,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
would immediately turn off everybody. I mean, even the people that reluctantly support them, nobody supports that many tolls. And that was the initial plan, I think, by the governor. So that got a lot of people, not much support at all on that. Now the governor scaled back to down to, I don't know, 30 or 40. But it's going to be a tough sell. It's a radical decision, and you have to bring it out a little smoother, I
And
think.
you know what? I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm against it.
Yep.
Okay, because I looked at some of the information out there, went out there and did some homework on it, and they start out talking small tolls. Okay. Hartford to New Haven, about 38 miles during peak hours. They're saying $6 round trip. If you've got an easy pass, a little over $4. Well, you know what?
That's a lot. That's a
$6
lot for 5 days a week, though. if you're going
I
to
was
work.
going to say to you, the average, I ran into a young lady, and I've said this before, and you're probably sick of listening to me, but, and she, where she worked, where she lived in Hartford and she was traveling, and I can't remember exactly, maybe it was New Haven, she said to me, it's going to cost me $200 a month, and I'm a single mom, and I can't afford
It's
that.
a lot of money.
And I thought, that's exactly what we don't want is the family person, male, female, having to pick up another burden. So your paycheck now is diminished because you're giving the state more money in tolls, okay? Instead of going back and looking at the economies of the state and saying, where can we cut? What can we do different? What can we do different? Now you sat in the state legislature. Where can we cut and what could we do different?
Well, my last session of my career, I made a controversial budget vote where myself and 2 other female senators, Democrats, we kind of made it clear from day one, really, there was too much spending and they weren't really focusing on it. So we actually ultimately voted for the Republican budget and kind of blew up the Capitol. But it ultimately, it was a very radical decision, but ultimately it was good in my eyes because the governor vetoed it, so that wasn't law, but the parties came together.
To work
we
on
had
it.
2 bipartisan budgets where both parties were in the room, and we got some good structural changes. We got cuts, and we also capped the bonding. We defined what the spending cap is. So it was an effort where you actually worked together. You made some difficult choices because everyone likes and conceptually cuts, but once you hit what their interests are, people don't like it.
Oh, no.
But we made some tough decisions.
I was
it
gonna
can be
say,
done when there's a will and when you come together. I was very happy that the result of our vote, we had 2 bipartisan budgets that were surpluses, no taxes, and surpluses each year.
Yeah,
So-
that.
But it took a lot. We took a lot of grief for making that vote, but it was the right thing for the state, and that's why I sleep well at night.
Not only for the state, but for the average
Right.
guy. Not the state in its whole, in its entirety, but the small family, okay? Not everybody makes big money. There's a lot of people
We know it's expensive
hand
here.
to mouth.
The more you add, the harder it is in these people.
Exactly. So I totally agree with you. That's 100%. When anybody says tolls to me, I say, look at the big picture. Look at the big picture. And also, the second part of that is, let's look at the state budget and find out where are we spending money that we don't have to spend so much money. So, and I'm sure you've been down that.
Yes.
And you must have spent many nights up looking
Oh
at
no, the
line-
last 2 years,
line-
a lot
I
of
was
time.
going to
We
say,
created our own budget and everything. So.
oh, see.
No, they're not easy, but you can do it. It can be done. When there's a will and you want to roll up your sleeves, you can do it.
Okay, now, part of this is them jumping up and down, screaming and having a fit and saying, well, we need to fix the you know, the transportation, the highways.
Infrastructure,
the
yeah.
Infrastructure, okay. And where'd all that money go that we've been putting away all these years towards?
Well, some of it has been taken away into the general fund during the difficult times, which is a
Okay.
regrettable decision.
Talk to me about a difficult time.
Well, yeah, over the last, since 2008,
Yeah.
our budgets have not. This year we finally have a surplus, but from 2008, from the Great Recession forward, the Connecticut budgets have gone up, but they're really, Malloy raised taxes quite a bit, and there are a lot of tax increases, but there hasn't been the actual, natural revenue increases by a booming economy.
Right.
So during that time, people were just hurting through the whole time, I would say.
Right.
It's just not.
And I don't want to see the middle class hurt.
Right.
I really don't want to see it.
I think tolls, you could scale it back even more and really limit. And I've read somewhere maybe you target the bridges alone, but if a person like a single mother in Hartford's got to pay $200 a month, that is a lot of money. Now
That's
they're
a lot of
also
money.
saying, well, we'll cut back on the income tax for the poor, but who knows if that's going to really.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times the poor don't pay much income tax.
Well,
they already don't really.
Yeah, they don't have much money.
Right,
How
they don't have money
gonna-
to do
yeah,
it.
They don't have money to do it,
Right.
See, so when they talk about this pie in the sky, oh, we're going to do this, or we're going to give you $1 off that, or something like that, in the scheme of things, that just doesn't compute. I'm sorry, we got to, in this state, start worrying a little bit more about the middle class, okay? And I'm not taking anything from the people that have money. They've worked hard. They've got money, okay? But right now, I'm concerned about the small families. I'm concerned about the seniors. I'm concerned about maybe a senior that has to go from Cromwell to New Haven and has to drive through a toll. I mean, it just.
That seems high too. I don't even know what the numbers were. If it was 50 cents or something, that might be a little more palatable.
That's what they started talking about.
But when you're going up to $200 a month, that's a lot.
That's a lot of money just back.
How much is that? Is your single mother actually making in her job?
Exactly, to do that.
Probably to lose $200 is a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, the problem with her was, as she told me, she's a sales lady.
Yep.
So she's got to go here and there, and so she's constantly going through these toll booths. And I said, yeah, it broke my heart for her, and I thought, it doesn't impact me that much because, where do I go? Middletown?
Right.
Weathersfield, a big trip. Whoa.
Go down South Steen Highway.
Colchester,
Yep.
but some of those things just annoy me that they don't think about the whole thing. Now, here's another thing that I'm going to ask you I'm going to throw out a female, okay?
Yep.
If I want to paint the inside of my house, and I'm living on a fixed income, I'm not going to paint the whole inside of the house. I'm going to hire some nice person and have them do one room.
Right.
And then they'll do that room, and then when I have a little more money, I'll do the second room, right? Why can't we do that with the bridges and the roads and all this stuff? Why do we have to do all of it at once and not do it in small increments?
Well, I think because there's been neglect through the years. That's part of the
big
problems. But I mean, I don't think I think you're right. They introduced too many all at once. But the problem is, we do have a problem. That's pretty clear. We're one of the worst in the country in terms of overall. We have to invest in our infrastructure. It's a question of how and how soon too. You don't have to do it immediately, but there has to be recommitted focus. That's why last year we passed the lockbox for spending. Now, people are critical. Will it really be a lockbox? That's it is in the details. But whatever money have to be used for transportation should be used for transportation. This year's budget, some money was taken out of the transportation fund, which was not a good precedent. After the voters already approved that, this year's budget they took money from the special transportation for the general fund. Listen, it's hard, but still, that's not the right approach. If you're advocating for tolls, your main arguments, if you're an advocate, you got to say all the money will be used for transportation. But then if you took more this year, that's not a good precedent, a good example to show to the voters.
Exactly,
to sell it.
Yeah, you're saying with this hand, I'm saying, okay, yeah, we're going to be good stewards of your toll money, and with the other hand, we'll be saying, Well, maybe we need to buy lollipops, you know, this kind of thing.
But that's what I hear from a lot of people. They're saying, is it really going to be used for transportation
Right.
if they ever pass it?
Yeah, which means, well, okay, pick another one.
Okay.
The Connecticut Lottery.
Connecticut Lottery.
Yes, Connecticut Lottery. Let me ask you. Okay. When they sold us the Connecticut Lottery.
Back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Did they or did they not tell us that a lot of that money was going to go for education?
Yes. Well, that was the main sales. They said all of it was going to go to education.
Yes. And what happened to that?
That got rolled into the general fund.
Oh, how did that happen? oh, legislator, tell me, how did that?
That was a decision, a will of the legislatures at that time. But it was the main arguing point to get it passed. But then shortly thereafter, it was diverted to the general fund. Now, I will say, I've heard this a lot, and the truth of the matter is what the lottery generates is a lot less than the state pays currently on education. You know, because we give about $4 billion a year to all the towns. But you're right, ultimately, that was not good precedent if you're going to argue for tolls will be for transportation only. That's a weak.
I adore you.
Yes.
You know that. You are so honest.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people out there wringing their hands and saying, "Oh my God, what's he doing to us?" Okay. This last year, 2018. Okay, players won $792 million. And $345 million went to the general fund. Went 345. You know, I have to be honest with you, I didn't even know how many zeros that was. I never have had to write that in my checkbook.
Not me
Okay.
either.
Okay. So if they promise you one thing and then they flip-flop and use it as a candy store, do you understand why the middle class like me
I appreciate the
very,
frustration. I do.
We are frustrated. We are
No,
frustrated.
and I always thought if it ever were to pass, you should reduce the gas tax also. So if tolls ever pass, you have to cut the gas tax to make it competitive. So yes, this is going up, you know, pretty significantly, but you're lowering the gas tax to be more competitive with the other states.
How much would you lower the gas tax?
No, they're probably 4 cents. They're planned 4 or 5 cents.
4 or 5
But
cents.
the problem with the gas tax, and this is the truth is, as our cars become more economical, you lose the revenue. Like I drive a Ford Fusion hybrid, I get about 40 miles to the gallon. So I don't buy as much gas as I used to. I used to have a Jeep that used to get like 20, 22. I'm getting probably buying half as much as I used to. So that's half the revenue. So they're in, you know, a lot of the cars now with all the electric cars and the like, the gas tax revenues are down. But still, if you were to cut that, that would level with other states, and it would help people to a certain extent.
See, now, I was reading somewhere, and I don't know where it is, but we have some of the highest
Absolutely. You're right.
gas
Yes, that's
taxes,
very
40
true.
some odd cents.
Yes, that's true.
And 64 for trucks.
Yep.
That's a lot of tax money. And, you know, if I go to the gas pump and I want to put in $25 of it, I'm really not getting $25 worth of gas.
True.
What am I getting? $20?
But some people say, I mean, even the opponents of tolls really aren't saying cut the gas tax.
No.
Because you can't. You got to have money. You can't. If you're against tolls, you can't be cutting the gas tax because you won't have any revenue because that's
Yep.
going down. So
Yeah, it's going down.
yeah,
You're
so-
absolutely right.
But
It's
if
going down.
the advocates for tolls can say, I will advocate to cut it to give a bone to the people, but I don't. It's going to be.
Yeah, and they'll wait a year and then they'll jack
Yeah,
it back
could
up
be.
again. You know that. You know that. They love that candy store up there, you know. If I could make money grow in my savings account like they can make money,
Right,
you know, grow, you know, but anyway, I'm not picking on you. Well,
That's
I
all
am
right.
picking on you, but it's because I love you.
Yes.
So, you know, so.
I can handle it.
You can handle it. You can handle it. Okay, let's go ahead and move
All
on.
right. Is there any softballs in here?
Connecticut state budget.
Oh, that's not a softball.
Oh, wow. Now, okay. Do you want to defend the Connecticut state budget?
I'll defend the prior 2 years that I had an integral role in. This year I really didn't have any role in it. So my 2 years ago, I'm being a little repetitive, but I made a decision. I didn't like the course of the budget, so I made a radical decision that a lot of my people in my party weren't happy with me, and it kind of made my couple of years pretty miserable under the Golden Dome, because I thought we were heading down the wrong road. So I made the radical decision to vote for a Republican budget. We ultimately, and I knew it was vetoed, but both parties came together and got bipartisan budgets. And I think most of my constituents liked that idea, people working together. So that was the approach of the prior 2 years. That was not the approach of this year's budget.
No, wasn't, definitely
I was not up there. I didn't vote for this budget. It was not under my...
I like the smile on your face when you say, I did not vote for this budget,
Yeah.
And I happen to like Kevin Lembo.
Yep.
I really like him. He's been on my show.
He's
I
a
like
smart
him.
guy.
He's a smart
Yes.
guy. But he's a politician. I noticed that, okay? I noticed he was a politician. And he projects a $700 million surplus. However, you ready? He does say in this whole thing, though he noted that amount will be reduced by $540 million, okay, to cover funding for the new Special Capital Reserve Fund for the teachers' retirement system and settlement for hospitals. Okay, how in Lord's name did the teachers' retirement fund get in such bad shape, Paul?
So the teachers and the state employees, that's the big problem. Over the years, and it's not just, it's like the past, since 1940, both parties did not adequately fund it. And so you get such a long structural deficit. And that's a problem for all of us. Actually, Governor Malloy, one of the good things he did was he did fully funded each of his 8 years. But you're making up for 40 years before that were behind. So he basically this year, what you're talking about is they basically, at the end of the June 30th, 2019 year budget, that's when I voted on last year, there's about a $700 million surplus. They basically, in this year's budget, they grabbed $500 million from that to use it for the things you just said, for teachers' retirement. I mean, I always thought that's the best investment you could use it for, because you're targeting, but they've grabbed, so ultimately there'll probably be about 200 to go into the rainy day fund.
Now, one of the things that accountants have brought to my attention, because I admit I am no accountant. Well, you see my checkbook. You would agree I am no accountant. Okay. Is the fact that we projected, was it Denise Napier?
Napier, the prior treasurer.
Yeah. I'm trying to get, wanted to make sure I picked the right person.
You got it right.
Okay, Denise projected that we were going to get much higher returns on our investment than we got. And we kind of went with that and planned accordingly. Oh, we're going to get 8.9%, a return on our fund, and we didn't get anywhere near that. Why, when she saw that these funds were not returning the money that she projected, didn't we change funds? Why didn't we look around and say, we've got to diversify, or we've got to do something?
Well, I'm not an expert, and they have a committee that works on the investments. But I mean, I think
do they still have? I mean, do they have a committee now, or did they have one then?
Yeah, they've always had one. But the problem is they targeted too high. You're right. That's the problem.
Yeah, they targeted way too high.
They were too aggressive. But you also don't want to be too aggressive with our funds, because then you could lose money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just like part of your investment, some you probably have aggressive, most conservative, like I have.
Yeah.
You're willing to say you can gamble with a small portion.
Exactly.
But most of it you want to be conservative because you need it for the future.
That's
and
me.
They kind of planned for being aggressive, but they really weren't.
They weren't aggressive at all, and that's why we're in.
Right. That's why we're.
And how did the state ever become responsible, which goes back, like you say, 40 years, for the teachers' retirement fund?
Yeah, the state years ago came up with that. That was a decision of the legislature.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because it could be, you're right, they could be, all the teachers' pensions could in theory be paid by the municipalities. But way back when the decision was made that the state would pick it up. Now ironically, the last 2 years, Governor Malloy and then Governor Lamont both wanted to have the towns kick in for some of it. I think Malloy was like 25%, Lamont was maybe 20%. But the legislature said, no, we want to keep, because the towns had an upcry, that was not in their budget.
Of course.
So, but that, ironically, lately, the governors are trying to pass it. And some people, I hear, up in the Capitol, you hear their frustration. Yeah, the fact that the state pays it, there's no disincentive for for giving big raises because you're not paying for the retirements. You know what I mean? Because the town doesn't have any responsibility for the pensions, they just say, oh, we'll do early golden handshakes or whatever. We don't care. Get them out. We're not going to pay for it.
Oh, okay. I wondered because I know just talking to the heads of municipalities, they are dead set against it. They said they spent us into this mess. They made the bad decisions. Why do we have to pick up now and, run with the bag?
But they're also worried if it's 20% year one, each year it'll go up and it'll be
Sure.
50%, and then that's what they're really worried about.
So what would be your idea for the best way to handle this whole thing?
Well, I think you just have to continue the investments we're making. You know what I mean? This year, I mean, it's probably, if you have this surplus, a surplus is a good thing. Rather than spending on new spending, if you're using some of the surplus to put additional payments into our pensions, that's a good thing. So I think that's a good use of it.
So you think that Kevin's doing the right thing when he's talking about, this.
Well, the legislature made the decision.
Oh,
But yeah, but he monitors all the numbers.
And he's very good at it. Don't misunderstand.
Oh
me.
yeah. No, I mean, I'd rather put it all in the rainy day fund. But rather than spending on new spending, at least it's used for these long-term obligations that we were so bad at the last 40 years.
Now, who monitors the rainy day fund?
Well, we passed our budget of 2 years ago, put restrictions on it, and we've kind of put a tighter cap on it. You can't take it. So now it's up to almost over $2 billion, which is $2.5 billion, which is great. But you need to tap into it. You need like a 3/4 vote of the legislature. So it's going to have to be a situation that's really dire, where everyone says, okay, we got to do it. We got to come together.
We got to come together.
It's not just, and there is some frustration currently that people wanted to spend it this year in this year's budget, but they couldn't because they knew they would never get the 3/5 vote to tap into it. But which is good, because who knows what comes tomorrow or 4 years. If we're in real dire straits, they may need it. So.
Speaking of dire straits, okay, now you just got a nice award from the Chamber of Commerce, which I think is wonderful. You're so deserving of it. But the other thing I'd like to ask you is, how do we keep businesses from moving out of the state?
That's a challenge, and that's the thing I fought for my whole career. You know, I mean, there's an attitude. Some people, some of my colleagues, and some people in this real world think businesses are just, they're money machines and they're unlimited. And I've always worried we have to try to do our best. And listen, we can't do it, but do our best and minimize new expenses on business, because they can leave the state. They also can decide not to move to the state. I always say, every state has its own resume, its business resume. And when they look at it, if they see, I mean, we're never going to get around a high cost of living here and high employees, but we have an educated workforce that is good. But when you have all these other things that, each year they keep adding on, another company from California that's looking to expand in New England, they're going to compare resumes and not come to Connecticut.
And not come to Connecticut.
And that's a scary thing about it.
And that is, that is really, really scary. Because it says, we just can't continue to drain our businesses out of this state and still maintain what we need to maintain.
Right. Well, we need jobs. I worry. I mean, I always say a lot of these jobs are beyond Connecticut. They're offshoring jobs. They're really, when I call companies, I always get, where are you? When they're in other countries, that frustrates me. I love talking to Because I mean, I'm provincial. As long as you're in America, I don't care if you call CNG or whatever company.
Right.
You want to have American jobs, American people.
Absolutely, I'm with you
Because,
100%. Yeah. Otherwise, where do our young people go?
There's the job. With this high tech, there's going to be fewer and fewer jobs for the next generation.
So
that's scary. Where are they going to work?
So the kids need to be high tech, and
Yes.
we need to educate the kids.
Yep.
And I feel so strongly about that. I want every young person to have the opportunity. I mean, I'm a perfect example. I come out of a foster home, and I mean, I could do anything I wanted to do in this, and I want to nurture these children, these kids, to say to them, you can be anything you want to be. You can just work hard, do what you need to do, get an education, and nothing's going to get handed to you. So you got to get out there and you got to work at it, right?
Yeah. But hard work makes a difference.
Hard work makes a difference. It makes a difference. But I also want them to be able to look forward to having a job. And
and a lot of young people want to go to the Bostons, New Yorks, and all that. Even in my time, my friends, a lot left just because they see the bright lights and they want to go there.
They want to go there. But then they get a little bit older and they go, Cromwell doesn't look so bad.
It's not a bad place. Not a place to raise a family. Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. Oh, okay, so you're not too happy with this budget that's coming out of Hartford right now?
Well, I don't know. Mine would have been a little different.
Are we dancing?
Yeah. Well, it would have been different.
Wait a minute. I'm listening for music.
No, I'll be honest. Every budget I voted for, no one likes every budget.
Oh, of course
because
not.
it's such a massive document.
Right.
But I did like the prior 2 years more than the current year because we held the line in spending. It was bipartisan. But it didn't happen this year. And no, I mean, I don't know what I would have done if I was up there. I'll be honest. But it was. But I was the last 2 years. I was very pleased to have bipartisan budgets.
I see. You know what? When you say bipartisan.
People are hungry for that.
Even
in Washington and Hartford. I mean, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. All we want is everybody to hear the same music.
Right.
I mean, and try to do
You can
what's
disagree,
best.
but you don't disagree on everything.
Exactly. And be able to sit down, talk to each other, and say,
communicate.
Hey, I disagree with you here, but I agree with you there. I mean, and I think that's a very healthy. It's like being married.
Yeah, compromise.
I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah.
You compromise.
Yep.
What do you mean you want to go shopping again? No.
Yeah.
All right. Come on, get in the car. I've been there.
Yep.
But I mean, that's what compromise is all about. But all of a sudden, we seem to have drawn a line in the sand.
Right.
And if you're a Democrat, you stay on that side of the line. If you're a Republican, you're on this side of the line. And that's not going to do it.
But I'm hoping in time that we'll come back to the. I'm older school. I'm more. My reputation was to work with both sides.
Yes, it was. That's one of the things it said.
I enjoy doing that, but I think it'll come back in time. I don't know when, but in the near term, it has to come back. People are going to want to get things done. I mean, Washington's worse than Hartford. I mean, in terms of the division, it really is. It's really sad.
Isn't that sad? That is really, really sad. So what else have we got to talk about?
All right, let's see.
Tell me about what you'd like to do in the future.
Oh boy. Well, I've spent, as we said, 27 years in public service, and when I got out of school, I knew I wanted to serve, and I've put a lot of time in. And then, just this weekend, I ran into an old resident of Wethersfield actually at a graduation party, and I didn't know him that well, but he was head of Wethersfield Little League, and he said, "Doyle, you were crazy to run for Attorney General. You gave up a safe Senate seat. Why did you do it, Doyle?" And I said, in life you have to take risks. You know what I mean? And I was there. I mean, I also worried you don't want to stay at a place forever. You can't be there forever. So in life you have to take risks. So yes, I took a risk. Yes, I was an underdog for Attorney General. But I said to myself, I was 55 at the time, and you have to get up to the plate in life. I don't want to stay another 10 years up there and regret never getting to the plate. So it didn't work out for me, yes, but I have no regrets. And since then it's actually been nice to kind of catch my breath and be home at night. It's different, I mean, but I always in the back of my mind, I always said I don't want to stay too long, and because I've seen people through the years stay in their jobs too long, whatever, whether it's a job, whether an elected official, people stay too long. So, I mean, I went for it, it didn't work out, and now I'm just kind of thinking about what I want to do in the future. You know, whether I run again, I have no idea. But I'm just happy to enjoy life and, you know, just be home with my wife once in a while, and it's different. The year running for AG, I was never home, so now I'm home a lot more. But it was an experience of a lifetime. You're going all around the state. I had a lot of people happy with me, some not so happy because of my difficult decision. But that's life.
Yeah.
I actually, you know, when I got attacked, I'd go to places and I'd have some rational criticisms, some irrational criticisms, because certain groups didn't like my decision. They thought I was wrong. But you know what? I took it on, and I didn't run away from it. I did what I know was right. I think my constituents appreciated it, having 2 bipartisan budgets. And my desire to be AG didn't work out, but I'm going to move on with life, and I'm very comfortable with who I am.
Well, I'd be very comfortable if you told me you were running for office again, and I'm a Republican. So I just thought I'd slide that in there, you know. But well, I'm glad that you've decided that you want to take a breath. But I really think personally, and again, putting aside Republican and Democrat and all that, you have so much more to offer the state. I really think that it would be beneficial for us to have another Paul Doyle somewhere, wherever you wanted to be, you know, because, I mean, I don't care if it's on some committee serving, you know, business committee, chamber, anything that gives you an opportunity to bring all the, look at just us sitting here today, how much we've covered.
Right.
And how much you've enlightened me and schooled me on some of the stuff that I didn't know. And I think that would be, you know, that would be so beneficial to so many. How about teaching a course in one of the colleges so the kids will really get an idea of what it's really like. Right, really. Okay, our last.
Let's see what it is.
Yes. Connecticut state taxes.
Oh boy, you're another hot one.
Okay, so I did my homework.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Feel free to take a nap. Okay. Taxes paid by Connecticut residents. Personal income tax. Interest on your investments, right? Gas tax. I'm on a roll here?
Yes.
Sales and usage tax. Business tax or corporate tax.
Yep.
With you know, inheritance tax. Public service tax. Cigarette tax. Real estate conveyance tax. Alcoholic beverage tax. Admissions and dues tax. You want to take a nap? I got more to go. Miscellaneous tax. I love that one. I couldn't find out what that meant. And then other taxes called by another name, licenses, permits, fees, and taxes on federal grants. Talk to me, where is all this money going?
So most of that money, well, like the gas tax that we said goes to the Special Transportation Fund, which is supposed to be 100% for transportation. It isn't always.
With Irish tickle in my throat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And most of the others do go generally to the general fund, where we fund everything. And we spend a lot of money. But I mean, in the defense of it, there is a lot of money going to the towns. And I always say, people, if we were to eliminate all the state aid to the towns, that'd be $4 or $5 billion. That would be, but then your taxes would double up. So you can't do that.
Okay, so where does this money go to the towns? I never hear much.
Yeah, state aid. It goes right in our. When you get your tax bill, there's usually a document that says, the town of Cromwell received $4 million from the state. If they didn't get it, your taxes would be another 2 or 3 mils or something.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, no, it's more just state aid. You know, it's state aid for the town
To bring the
and
taxes
ECS.
down.
Remember ECS for the education fund. So
Right.
there is a lot there, and legislators fight for that because a lot of governors want to cut it, and that's basically, if that gets cut, your property taxes are going to go up further, and that's probably the property taxes are the toughest.
Property taxes are very, very tough.
If you got a fixed income, it's very tough.
It's very, very tough. It's very, very tough. you know, kind of breaks my heart to think that, you know, so many people grew up in a time when things were tough.
Yep.
You know, I don't know how many people are left from the Depression, but, you know, but the families of the Depression people didn't have any money. They had very little money. And then they retire, and then they're still paying all these taxes. Because, I mean, this doesn't say, okay, let's just pick something, admission and dues tax. Well, if you're 60 years old, you're going to pay it, and if you're 20 years old, you're going to pay it.
Right.
So it's a tax. It's a tax, you know. So I don't know, how do we hold them down so that they don't go any crazier and tax anything else? Well, I know now we're going to pay 10 cents for a plastic bag environmentally. I don't consider that a tax. Do you consider that a tax?
It's like a user fee. I mean,
That's a user
it'll hopefully
fee, okay.
push you to use the reusable bags. So that one, if you're smart enough, it's going to encourage people to use the bags, disposable. Most of us have them in our cars, and you forget them or something. You'll go out to the car and get them.
Get them, right, when you have to figure out you're going to
Well, that's more of a, that's like a nuisance that you'll get the habit of remembering to get them and bring them in.
Yeah, especially the first time you have 3 or 4 bags and it's another 50 cents.
Right, you'll say, you know what, I got those in my car.
I got to go back and get them.
Yeah,
right,
so that's not
you know.
a real one. But like cigarette taxes is a real tax.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not a smoker, but they're like $10 a pack now. And that's advocated by a lot of the, you know, Cancer Association and doctors. They want it because they say that's a forced disincentive for people to smoke because they don't have the money. But they're literally like $10 a pack. It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
How expensive they are.
I know. To forget that. That's not one of the luxuries in my life. You can be sure of that, you know.
Yes.
But how about these? The thing that bothers me is the business tax or the corporate tax. How do we incentivize, well, I messed that word up.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Businesses to stay in the state of Connecticut if they're paying high business or corporate taxes.
Our corporate tax is now in the middle. That's not the problem. It's what you're pointing out, the whole picture.
Yep.
It's really not as much the corporate. It's when you look at all of them. If they create a big factory, they're going to pay property taxes. You know, and there might be some discounts, but that's the big nut, because you compare property taxes in Connecticut with Alabama or something, it's much less. You know, and I'll be honest, another disadvantage we have is heating costs.
Oh,
you compare, you can't do anything about it, but Connecticut versus Alabama, the energy expenses are much higher here.
They're much higher.
So we have built-in disadvantages. I mean, I happen to like to change the seasons.
I do too.
But in the winter, if you got to pay for it, if you're a corporation, you don't. But no, that list you read, when you took it as a global composite, then it's mind-boggling.
Right.
Yeah. And when someone's looking to expand in New England, are they going to go to Maine and New Hampshire, or are they going to come to Connecticut?
Exactly.
That's our problem.
That to me was mind-boggling, because I've never really sat down and you know, looked at what kind of tax. You know, you just pay it.
Yeah.
You know, you go in, you pay it on this, and you pay it on that, and you pay it on the next thing. And you don't think anything about it. Yeah. But when you start looking at somebody from out of the state, as you say, come in and say, okay, let me just look and see what they charge taxes on. That's a lot.
But I mean, realistically, whoever say the Republicans took full control, they're not going to eliminate many of those taxes. The question is, what new things are coming along?
Exactly.
So it's not like, if someone tells you they're going to get rid of all of them, they're pulling your leg.
Oh,
the question is, what's the agenda? Are they going to expand or raise taxes or fight to make cuts? And that's really what it is, because Connecticut does have, you know, no one, I mean, Republicans don't want to gut local aid. That's a big nut.
Right.
Because then, you know, Republicans and Democrats pay taxes. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Property taxes.
That's exactly
but,
right.
You know, a lot of it's nursing home costs. You can't get around that. But there are things that people can do, and it depends on the composition. This year there wasn't a great focus on cuts.
No, there wasn't. Right. And I think that's a big mistake. I really think that's a very, very big mistake. One of the things that I've heard and is the long-term disability. Those insurance premiums have gone through the roof.
Oh, I mean long-term care insurance?
Yes. I just got a bill, and I've had this for years and years and years, $6,000 a year.
Wow.
For long-term care. Does anybody pay any attention to these? I mean, this is one way of getting a senior to drop it, because most seniors can't come up with $6,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they keep increasing these premiums as you get older, hoping that you'll drop out of it.
Right.
And I talked to the state of Connecticut, and I said, what's going on here? And she said, Mrs. Terry, you're not the only one that's in this boat. You know, she said, I don't know what to tell you that this particular insurance, you know. And I'm saying to myself, that's another, you just mentioned nursing homes and things like that, you know.
Because if you don't have that, the state's part will be bigger, ultimately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I also read, because of an interest in this now, Connecticut, the nursing home beds are about $400 a day, and most of the other states around are $283, $285. That's another cost that people will say, I'm getting out of here.
Right.
You know, so I mean, we've got some real problems.
Yeah, no, and those long-term care increases, long-term care, I dealt with them as a senator in terms of constituents calling me and complaining.
Absolutely.
So I learned it's not really a legislative matter as much.
No,
it's the
it's not.
Department of Insurance, where they regulate the rates and they give permission to raise them. And it's frustrating, because I'd say, can you guys keep them down? And they say, well, we have these rules and all that.
Exactly.
No.
That's what I just ran into when I called up the state.
Yeah.
They said, you know, this is just, there's not much we can do about it, Mrs. Terry. And I'm saying, okay, you know, so people that have paid into this for all these years now can't afford to keep it when they might need
Right,
it
and then
now.
all the money they invested is gone then.
Is all gone, I'm telling you. It's really, really something. So now it's your turn. Is there something you want to talk about that we haven't discussed?
Let me think. Okay, you got me on the spot. Well,
This is your chance.
yes, no,
I mean, you're Irish.
exactly.
I mean, you should have stuff just bubbling out of your head saying, yeah.
No, it really was my pleasure to serve so long.
I know.
You know, I grew up in a house of politics. My father never ran for office, but he was active in Democratic politics and always, you know, worked. So in junior high and high school, I always enjoyed it. So, you know, it's kind of like I feel like I've, you know, for 27 years, it was such a pleasure to serve everybody. But you mentioned earlier, Paul, you came in my door and said, what can I do? I really, you know, maybe it's a bit naive. Once, you know, I'm a Democrat, and I always will be, but I always said once election day is over, I'm the representative of the people of Cromwell. So I don't care what you are, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we got to work together for the people, and that's what it's supposed to be, rather than currently a lot of people are, you know, I don't think either, let's just say neither party is perfect.
No.
Neither party has all the answers. So that's why I said the people don't care what it is, they want to be helped.
Well, you did a lot of good things. Here I was sitting there, Republican first selectman, and you brought in, you know, the recycling truck, and I mean, you came to the senior dinners, and you never once did I ever hear you say, you know, this will make her look good because I'm showing up here. You know, you just did it for your constituents, for the community, and I think that's money in the bank for anybody.
No, I think I'm proud to say I was not a partisan legislator. I mean, I'm a Democrat, but I didn't. Yeah, I know, but I didn't.
No.
My goal was not to push.
No, your party.
Yeah, once you're out with the people, people don't think of what they don't care.
They don't care.
They just want to talk to their representatives and try to get help.
Yeah, they want to talk to somebody that's going to listen to them.
Right.
I think that's what the whole thing, you know, is all about right now. So, well, we'll see what happens in the future. That's for sure.
Right.
We covered a lot of stuff today.
We got a lot going out there in the state capitol.
Yes.
Yep.
So now, do you still keep in touch with some of your friends?
Yeah, some of my friends. Yes. Yep.
Oh, good. So
but then again, I'm not my successor. I'm not, you know, walking all over him. He took over my job and let him stand on his own. You know, I didn't go to the Capitol the whole year this year. I intentionally stayed away because I don't want to. You know, I let other people, the new generations there, and I didn't. It was my intention to let them do their job. I'm not going to look over people's shoulders. That's my style.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now I'm really going to put you on the.
Sure.
You ready?
Yes.
If you were, pardon me, if you were Attorney General, What would you do different?
That's an interesting question. I think I would have, my biggest issue was really fighting for the people. So my plan was from day one, and I said this everywhere I went, I don't think people appreciate it, but I was going to get a hotline where anyone could call at any time and really fight for the people, like we're talking about insurance premiums. I would have made a focus rather than just, I mean, the legislation's important, but it's reaching out to the people, helping the citizens of the state, feeling like the Attorney General is yours, so they could always call a number 24 hours a day and have a fight for them. That was my goal. I didn't get elected, but that was my sincere approach. Because one of the best parts of being a senator or a rep or even councilman is helping the people. So my focus would have been more to reach out to the people, have them know your Attorney General is there for you. Call this number whenever you want, whenever you need help. Wow. That would have been, and I really wanted to do the job. I mean, I guess I was more in the style of George Jepsen. He was the Attorney General that retired.
Yep.
He really kind of put his head down and did his work. My style as a senator was that. People criticize Doyle, you don't do enough. But that's not. It's about working. It's not about getting out there.
I was going to say that's not what I've heard. Oh, you know what I mean? And like I say, it's Republicans and Democrats, because once you got into your position, it was like you put blinders on and you never saw from that time whether it was in blue or whether it was in red or white for an independent. It was their mind. They came to me. They're asking me questions.
Right.
I'll
Election's
get the
over.
answers.
It's over.
Election's over.
Yep.
And I think that's so great, Now, if you ever get back into the state and decide that you want to take a look at those taxes, keep in mind I have a list.
You got a list for me? I can call you. I can get that list.
You can call me. I got it on my computer, and I'll be glad to share it with you.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
You shared a lot today with me.
Yeah, well, we shared a lot. We had a few laughs, and
Yes.
I think that's what it's all about, But anyway, so we're getting towards the end of the program.
Okay.
We got about 4 minutes.
All right.
Okay. And so I think I'll just, now that I put you on all kinds of pointed questions, would you go back and run for something in Wethersfield again?
I don't think so, no.
No. You've done...
Yeah, no, I did it years ago, yeah. I don't think I'll go back, I don't think so.
You're not going back? You're going to, you look for something...
Yeah, I don't know, and people have said, a lot of people said to me, when it's over, Paul, catch your breath, and that's my style. I'm very deliberate. I did my best. It didn't work out. It's nice actually to catch your breath and kind of think of where do you want to go from here, rather than rushing into something. So right. I didn't rush. I'm kind of sorting out things, and right now I'm busy practicing law. And I'll be honest, I used to have 3 desks. I was always at the Capitol.
Yeah.
As a senator,
right.
working there, and then as the attorney. Now I'm just one desk practicing law. It's actually kind of nice, working. Well, I still work hard, but it's not as. I'm not up till midnight at the Capitol and all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
they put in some terrible hours.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of hours, but it's satisfying. But you can't do it forever either. I think.
No.
And everybody wants the next person along, so we'll see how. The fact that I left led to a lot of people went for the seat, and we got a new face there, and we'll see. Everyone's going to decide next year what they think of the person's job.
Exactly, and that's going to be a biggie.
Yes.
That's going to be one of the things. Well, it's almost time for us to shut down this wonderful little program with my wonderful little guest, Paul Doyle, and I think you've learned a lot from Paul. I've learned a lot from Paul, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the last holiday, and I don't know if I want to call it a holiday. 4th of July is very near and dear to me. It's the time of the year, and I'm sure Paul agrees, that I take stock of how lucky I was to be born in this country. As I said, having come from a foster home, not having had a college education, putting my sister through school, who took advantage and was a wonderful teacher, okay? But where else, and I ask you out there, where else could a kid from that kind of a background okay, get married to a wonderful guy, have wonderful children, have them go to college, and also be elected a first selectman in a town. Only in this country are those things possible for us. I don't know of another country that offers what we do. So, do you
But
want
there's credit to you, though. I mean, it's not. I agree with you 100% that you had the opportunities, the possibilities, but you had to have the brains and wherewithal to do it. So it's a two-way street, because a lot of people, unfortunately, in society have the same opportunities and don't. I mean, as a foster child, a lot of people, unfortunately, don't ever really turn it around. You deserve credit for turning around and being a first selectman. So, yes, you had the opportunity, but always you and others have to take the advantage. I always say to people, I remember we had a very heated caucus, to be honest, in life I was given a pretty good hand of cards. My father was a lawyer, judge. My mother was an English teacher. They kind of advocated and pushed education all along.
Right.
You kind of did it yourself, and you deserve a lot more credit than I do.
That's very nice, and I do appreciate
That's the truth.
it. But I give the credit to this country to allow me to be anything I wanted to be. So I'm really, really pleased about that. So I guess that's the end of my story, and I really want to thank everybody for being here with us today, and God bless our military, our first responders, our police, and if I missed anybody, I'm terribly sorry, but God bless all of you. On behalf of Paul and myself, good night.